Hello learners, welcome back to SWAYAM program. Today we are going to learn metadata standards. In the metadata standards, we will discuss the major metadata standards like Dublin core, METS, modes and EAD. Dear learners, in the week 4, we covered some areas about the digital libraries, its components, its hardware and software requirements for developing a digital library. Today we are going to discuss about the metadata standards because metadata standards are essential in developing digital libraries as they provide a structured framework for organizing, describing and managing digital resources. Metadata serve as a data about data, making it easier for users to discover, access, and understand digital content. In digital libraries, metadata standards enable consistent cataloging, efficient search and retrieval, and interoperability among various systems and platforms, that allowing information to be shared and accessed across diverse digital collection. So these are the today's agenda, which we are going to discuss about the what is metadata, origin of metadata, major functions of metadata, benefits of metadata, and very important metadata standards like Dublin core, METS, modes, and encoded archival description EAD. Hi learners, due to the growth of, we can say the rapid growth of electronic resources that leads to unpredictability in the availability, accessibility, and authenticity of digital object. That is one of the challenge which a digital resource manager is facing. And the search mechanism where we retrieve the vast information often lacking efficiency and precision. And the advancements in digital systems have transformed information management, and because of this is another important role of digital information system. Advancements in digital systems have transformed information management, and it is an essential need for new methodologies to organize and access data. So there we will have the metadata. What is a metadata? We will generally say metadata is a data about data. It provides additional information to identify, describe, and retrieve documents or objects. Metadata being used now traditional libraries in the form of a card catalog, and it also provided essential information like titles, author, subjects, and location of book, and it also saved users from physically browsing shelves. But metadata in the digital context, we can say it is continues to serve similar role even with full text search capabilities. And this metadata in digital context offers structured, standardized information beyond content itself. Let us have origin of metadata. The term metadata was introduced by Philip Bagley in the year 1968, and initial focus was structural metadata. That means data about data containers. The structural metadata is the data about the structure of a data containers, and meta content means data describing individual instances, that is library catalog records. Metadata in various fields, you'll find in the field of information management, information science, information technology, librarianship, geographic information systems, GIS, you'll find the metadata. And metadata before the digital age, as we discussed already, it is in the library services, metadata in the form of a card catalog. And it is described books as a titles, authors, subject, and locations. And that time it helped users to locate physical books efficiently. Metadata role in the digital age, as a digital resource organization, metadata is a backbone. Without metadata, you cannot retrieve the data from the databases. So it enables discovery, identification, management of digital and information resources. If you say about the components of metadata, metadata contains different components like administrative components, descriptive components, access or use components, preservation components, and structural components. Major functions of metadata, you will find metadata as a resource discovery. Metadata performs the same function as an efficient, comprehensive, and updated catalog in resource discovery. It is also helpful for identifying resources and to find resources from using relevant criteria. And it also brings similar resources together and separating dissimilar resources, providing location information. It will also help to organizing the electronic resources. For example, organizing web information through channels and building the static web pages dynamically from metadata stored in the databases. And another important advantage of metadata is its function as a interoperability. Interoperability is the ability of multiple systems with different hardware and software platforms, data structure, interface, and networks effectively to exchange with the minimum loss of contents and functionality, and to use the information that has been exchanged in a purposeful manner. And another function of metadata is digital identification. The most of the metadata include ISBN or URL or DOI, etc. It will be helpful for identifying the document from different websites, portals, and databases. And another function of metadata is archiving and the preservation. The metadata will ensure that resources will survive and continue to be accessible in the future. To track the lineage of a digital object, That means where it came and how it has changed over time, to detail in physical characteristics and to document its behavior in order to emulate it on future technologies. It is highly essential that archiving preservation record special elements. So these are the major functions of a metadata. So learners, next area we are going to discuss is benefits of metadata. So metadata is benefited in different ways. Say for example, resource discovery, location and resource documentation. Metadata is helpful for resource selection, evaluation and assessment, safeguarding intellectual property rights, facilitates to filter obsolete data and provide only current information, and it permits to sort the information according to various forms besides according to subject content. These are the major benefits of metadata. Now let us discuss about metadata standards. Metadata standard is a set of metadata elements and rules for their use that has been defined for a particular purpose. In simple words, the metadata standards are set of guidelines and rules that govern the structure, representation, and exchange of metadata. In common usage, the terms scheme, schema, and the standard are used interchangeably. So, a metadata scheme is a set of descriptors. So, a metadata scheme is a set of descriptor types available to be applied to the information. Numerous standard schemes have been developed to address the specific information use. The next area we are going to discuss is the example of specific metadata standards and applications. Metadata has several categories of standards covering various functions like schemas. It is also known as formats and element set. It's a set of semantic properties used to describe sources. Example, Mark 21, Dublin core, mode, Onyx, etc. Content standards. While ACR2 functions as a content standard for traditional cataloging, most metadata standards do not make specific references to content standards. So some have guidelines for content. This is perfectly acceptable to use ACR2 or the upcoming or the RDA. The syntax, the structure, the structural wrapper around the semantic, which facilitates the migration of the information. Dear learners, now we are going to discuss about the one of the standards of metadata, that is Dublin core. Dublin core is a standardized set of 15 metadata elements that can be used to describe a wide variety of resources, including documents, images, books, websites, and multimedia. It is designed to be both human readable and machine readable standard, facilitating the discovery of resources in variety of information systems. The Dublin Core was developed to describe both digital and physical resources, making it easier to discover, retrieve, and manage these digital resources in various digital libraries, repositories, and websites. The Dublin Core was conceived during the workshop held in 1995 at Dublin, Ohio, USA. The workshop was organized by the Online Computer Library Center (OCLC) and the National Center for Supercomputing Applications in CSA, USA. The primary goal was to create a basic and easy to use metadata standard that non-specialists could apply, especially for web resources which were growing exponentially at that time. And this Dublin core can divide it into two categories based on the complexity of metadata required. That is a simple Dublin core. Simple Dublin core consists of basic 15 elements. Qualified Dublin core. The qualified Dublin core adds further detail in by refining the original 15 elements with additional qualifiers. The additional qualifiers are: one is audience, who the resource is intended for; provenance, the history of resource ownership; and rights holder, the entity responsible for owning the rights to the resource. So all these three elements will be additional in the qualified Dublin core. Then what are these 15 core elements of Dublin core? The first element is title, that means the name of the resource. Then the creator, that means the person, organization or entity primarily responsible for creating the resource. And the subject, the topic or the keyword that describe the content of the resource. And the next element is publisher, the entity responsible for making resource available. And the contributor, the people or entities who contributed to the creation of the resource. Date, the data associated with the creation of a validity of the resource. And the type, the nature or the genre of the resource. Format, the format, physical medium or dimensional of the resource. Identifier, source, language, relation, coverage, and rights. Okay, these are the 15 elements. The METS designed to encode descriptive, administrative, and structured metadata for complex digital objects. And the METS act as a container that bundles various types of metadata such as Dublin core, modes, pages of a digitized book, or components of multimedia collections. The core components of METS include sections for descriptive metadata. The core components of METS include section of descriptive metadata, administrative metadata, and the core components of METS include sections of descriptive metadata, administrative metadata, file list, and structural map that defines the relationship between files. How METS work in digital libraries and archives? The METS is particularly powerful when dealing with complex digital collections. Digitized books and manuscripts, METS can map the structure of a book, and METS can use museums and libraries to digitize artwork, audio, and video files. Preservations of digital objects, METS tracks all technical and administrative metadata related to digital preservation, documenting every action taken by ensure the object longevity. Okay, next metadata standard which we are going to discuss is MODES, Museum Object Data Entry System. MODES is a collection management system, and it is especially designed for libraries, museums, galleries, archives, and cultural institutions. The purpose of modes is the documentation and management of collections, both physical and digital. And it was developed during 1980s in the UK, and it manages complex metadata for both physical and digital collections. It tracks acquisition, conservations, and loans. And due to its flexible structure, modes allows institution to customize the system based on requirements. Next is encoded archival description. Encoded archival description EAD is an XML based standard for encoding archival finding aids, which are tools that provide detailed information about archival collections and their content. This was developed by Society of American Archivists and Library of Congress during mid 1990s. EAD enables archivists to describe complex archival materials in a structured and standardized way, making it easier for users to discover and access these resources online. And dear learners, so we are concluding today's session. You know, in today's digital landscape, metadata plays an essential role in organization, management, and accessibility of extensive information resources. By offering structured descriptions, metadata not only makes resources easier to find out, by offering structured descriptions, metadata not only makes resources easier to find, but also adds context and supports long-term preservation. The standards such as Dublin Core highlights the advantages of consistent, streamlined metadata, providing a practical framework for cataloging digital content in a way that enhances both access and interoperability. So we can say that several widely used metadata standards play a vital role in digital library development. So by applying these standards or any other metadata standards, digital libraries can ensure that resources are accurately described, easily searchable, and accessible to users, ultimately enhancing the library's functionality and the user experience. Thank you, dear listeners, for your patience listening. And we will meet tomorrow with another topic. Thank you.